If you've been following along with my series here on YouTube about inflation, you know that prices on pretty much everything have gone up dramatically over the last 3 years. Even if you haven't been following my series on inflation here on YouTube, you know that prices have been going up over the past 3 years because you do not need me to tell you that, because they have just been wild, and inflation has been coming down, but overall, we're just still seeing super high prices on everything, right? And particularly on groceries, food, eating out, anything to do with eating is costing us a lot more than it used to even just 3 years ago. We're not talking back in the good old days. We're talking 3 years ago. So it's just really impressive to see how much those prices have gone up. So in today's video, we are going to be going through 25 different tips and tricks that you can use to save money on food and groceries, since that's a big stressor on most people's budgets right now. And last time I checked, we all have to eat every single day, multiple times a day. It's something we cannot do without, we shouldn't do without. And really, we shouldn't be having to scrimp too much on that either, because I just have such a heart for people that are living in food insecurity around the globe and donating to charities here in my community that support people who are in need and who are living in food insecurity is really, really near and dear to my heart, because all of us deserve to have equal access to good, nutritious food. So here are some options for you if you're looking for a way to keep the nutrient value of your food up and keep nourishing yourself and your family on a daily basis, but also be able to kind of remotely keep that grocery budget on track with your budget, which is not easy to do right now. So if that sounds good to you, keep on watching. Hello, I'm Sarah Edens. I'm a finance coach, author, and wealth mindset researcher. And here on my channel, we talk about how to unlock your inner millionaire by developing a wealth mindset and building your finance skills so that you can live your dream life. And my goal here is to make learning about finance and wealth mindset really fun, enjoyable, not boring, and just take the stress out of what can be a very stressful and boring topic when it comes to personal finance. So thank you so much for being here as part of my channel, and I'm very, very happy to have you here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I would love it if you would like my videos, if you would comment on my videos. That just helps YouTube's algorithm to continue to show my video to more and more people and gets this message out across a wider audience. So thank you for helping me grow my channel that way. All right, so 25 different ways that you can help with cutting back on expenses when it comes to food and groceries. Let's jump right in. Number one is to cut back on dining out. And I know, I'm not asking you to cut back on dining out completely or forever. And if dining out is the only thing in your life that's bringing you joy, then please ignore this, because I want you to keep dining out regardless of whatever I say. Everything here is just informational and educational advice. This is not, there's no rules to this stuff. So you just take what's useful out of my videos and just, leave the rest, right? So, but generally speaking, what we've seen is that when you're looking at how much prices on food has gone up, the most expensive way that you can buy your food is to go out to eat at a restaurant or a fast food place, because that's just, you're paying for that higher premium there rather than preparing it yourself at home, obviously. And so that is just, if you're looking for a way to cut back on food expenses acutely, maybe think about cutting back a little bit on your Uber Eats, or cut back a little bit on how much you're going out and grabbing coffee all the time, or, whatever the case may be, and see if that helps you a little bit with your budget. And not to mention too, it depends on where you eat out. If you're in an area that has incredible high quality restaurants with amazing food that's, healthfully prepared, it can be fantastic to eat out, and that's fine for your health. Other places, if you're in an area that has a lot of fast food, your health is frankly better off not eating at those places too often. We all know that. You don't need me to tell you that. So it can benefit not only your budget, but also your health to cut back a little bit on eating out, depending on where you're going to eat. Number 2 is brew your coffee at home, and we had talked about that a little bit just in the previous point. But if you've noticed the price of coffee when you go out to grab it from a coffee shop, it has just gone up like crazy the last couple of years. You could pretty much buy a bag of coffee for what they're charging you for a cup. So it's just a math thing to think about. You know, maybe it's a really fun social thing to go out to coffees. So if that's your social time, again, move on to the next point. But if that's something that you're thinking, oh yeah, you know, maybe that's an area I could cut back in a little bit. There's so many different tutorials on YouTube about how to make those really cool coffees at home and brew up all kinds of stuff and be your home barista. There's all kinds of beautiful home coffee brewing equipment that you can invest in. I don't have anything fancy, to be honest. For mine, I just have a French press, and that's about as complicated as it gets. But I always love looking at other people like on Instagram when they're showing their like beautiful, like state-of-the-art coffee machines that probably cost more than, I don't even know what, but you know, beautiful coffee machines that make all kinds of stuff and do the dishes while they're making your coffee. I mean, I'm kidding, but it's just fun. Anyway, you don't have to get anything that's high end, but it's something to think about just from a numbers perspective of how often can you really go out to coffee if you're trying to kind of cope with the higher prices that we have right now at the moment. Number 3 is to create a weekly meal plan and build your shopping list around it when you go to the store or put in your online grocery order. This is a really good one because if you're a planner like me, it can really provide a sense of kind of chaos. I can provide a sense of order to the chaos when it comes to your week, to know what you're going to be eating and feeding your family for that week and not have to hit dinner time every single night with everybody hangry and have no plan. That's not a very good feeling. And so if you have a weekly meal plan and then know exactly what you need to buy, it really cuts back on food waste, and it cuts back on just any other things that might go to waste if you're just grabbing stuff off the shelves at the store versus you have a list and you know what you need to prepare specific meals. It can just make it more efficient for your budget that way when you shop. Then number 4 is to stick to your shopping list like glue. If you are in the grocery store, or online shopping, is the same way. But for me, especially when I go in the grocery store, I'm grabbing my groceries and my willpower has started to fade by the time I get to checkout. And they've got all those beautiful magazines. They've got the cookies. They've got the treats. They've got the snack bars. It's like they actually have done lots of marketing research. And there's a reason they put all that stuff at checkout, and it's because they know that by the time you've made your trek around the grocery store, you've just made like hundreds, if not thousands, of micro decisions about what to buy. So by the time you hit checkout, your brain is zapped, and they know your defenses are down, and they're going to sell you those cookies whether you want them or not. So that is why they're there. But anyway, if you have your list, you can stay strong and not be finding stuff when you get home that you're like, who put this in my cart? Did I put this in my cart? Did my child put this in my cart? How did this get home with me? And this is not my list, So how grocery stores, like they'll put cool stuff at the ends of aisles, or like I'm really bad about scented candles and nail polish and any kind of beauty products. Like if a store has those, I'm sunk. This is why I can't go to Target. All right, number 5 is buy non-perishable items in bulk when they go on sale. So this I have sort of mixed feelings about this one, so hear me out on this, okay? So if you buy in bulk, as long as, again, it's non-perishable items, so it could be shelf-stable food stuff, it could be cleaning supplies, it could be toilet paper, paper towels, whatever. It's great as long as you know you're going to use it and have space to store it, because otherwise your house can sort of start to feel like a warehouse instead of a home, and that can get really stressful. And then also too, and I actually had this happen, So during the pandemic, when it was hard, we were having all those supply chain disruptions and grocery stores were having supply issues. And so it was sometimes hard to get stuff. I had some certain items that would run out and I would get really stressed if they ran out. So I would just buy like 10 of them every time they came back in. Like, let me know in the comments if you were like this during the pandemic. I'm still having trouble getting myself out of this habit. I still feel like I buy like 5 of everything, even if I don't really need 5. But anyway, long story short, I would buy all of those items, so I ended up with a lot of stuff. And then, your tastes change, and you might have loved drinking a certain tea, and then one day you're like, I never want to see that tea again. Or you might love a certain brand of cleaning product, and then you find a new one that's now your favorite, but you've still got 200 left of the old one. So I think that's sort of the flip side, like the dark side of buying in bulk, is that you can sort of start to have your house get a bit of a warehouse feel because you're trying to store all that stuff, even if you bought it on sale. And then if you get tired of it or don't want to use it, then you're there trying to find some place to donate it, and then that's not really saving you money. So take that one with a grain of salt. Number 6 is opt for generic or store brand products instead of name brands. A lot of the grocery stores now, and just stores in general, are really starting to come up with some really phenomenal generic brands instead of the, brand name items. So that's often a pretty painless swap to make. Number 7 is to stop buying soda and juice. You do not need me to tell you that soda and juice with all the sugar that juice has, that no longer has any of the fiber from the fruit, right, is not so good for you. And that's a really easy way to save money. And just drink water instead, because water is the most hydrating thing for you anyway. And especially if it's here where I am, it's middle of summer, super, super hot. So the more water you can drink, the better, versus drinking all that sugary stuff. Save yourself some money. Number 8 is make sure you're signed up for the loyalty rewards programs offered by your local stores. This is a good one because then a lot of times they will then send you emails if they're running a sale on something, or a brand is running a sale that you want to stock up on their products. So you can just stay up to speed on all the current sales. Number 9 is check out your local farmers markets. So I really love farmers markets, and I've been going to farmers markets for years and years and years in multiple states across the country as we've moved around with the military. And it's always just such a joy to go, because I don't even care if prices are not like necessarily cheaper than the grocery store. The food is so much more vibrant. It's so much more healthy. It's fresh. It's been picked, maybe the same day or the day before. And you get to have that connection with your local farmers and people in the community. So it's just a great social experience as well. So that's a fun thing to try out. Number 10 is visit your local ethnic grocery store for spices, specialty items, and more. So I remember when we were living in one of the towns that we were stationed in, they had this really incredible Mediterranean market that was like Middle Eastern cuisine. They had their own butcher shop. They had just rows and rows of these super cool spices that I'd never even heard of before. And it was just a really fun experience to go. They had these beautiful desserts that they would make right there, beautiful breads. So those ethnic markets can be really fun to just broaden your palate and try new things. Number 11 is to buy whole foods and prepare meals from scratch instead of buying prepackaged or processed foods. And by this, I don't mean shop at Whole Foods. What I mean is buy the fruits, buy the vegetables, buy the uncooked whole grains. If you want to get something prepared, get a nice crusty bread, that's just been baked and doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. Get meat from the butcher's department or fish, and put something together that's fresh and wholesome. I know it takes more time. I know. It's kind of like a time management exercise, trying to find enough time to cook. I have my whole life planned out on Google Calendars, and I just do calendar blocking. And I think I literally have most of Saturday right now blocked out to grocery shop, and then do fruit and veggie prep, and then do meal prep. So I'm not saying that this is efficient. So if you're too busy for this and this sounds like a terrible idea, then don't worry about it. But if you have the time to cook, or you like to cook, or at least want to dedicate some time to it on the weekends, it can be a good option there. Number 12 is to grow your own herbs, vegetables, and even berries and lemons and limes at home to save on produce costs. So this is a really fun one. It really depends on how much space you have. So even if you have just like a sunny windowsill, you can usually do little pots of herbs. And my favorites to grow are oregano, basil, rosemary, and thyme. Those are the ones that you pretty much cannot kill. Although I say that, and I got some basil that I put in the garden this summer that something, I don't know what happened, but like all its lower leaves fell off. So they turned into these like skinny basil trees with like then basil leaves at the top. So it was very odd, but they're still not dead. So I can officially say my herbs have pretty much survived me and I don't have that much of a green thumb. But I'll put a picture on screen here of my summer garden this year. So this is a raised bed garden that I got off of Amazon from a military family owned business, which I love supporting military families. So I will link to my exact garden bed that I have in the description box. And so this is what I'm doing with my garden this summer, and I've got some dahlias, and it was pretty simple. It gets really, really hot here in the summer, and I just do not like to have to be out in the heat trying to keep everything alive. So we do a pretty scaled back garden every year. It's usually just herbs and cherry tomatoes because for some reason those can cope with the heat until it gets too hot and then they die too. But if you're in an area where it's more of a temperate climate, then you're going to have more luck with this. I'll put a couple of pictures on screen. This is my sister's garden where they live, and they have a much nicer climate for gardening where it's not quite so hot and they get more rain. And so that's what she's doing with her beautiful garden there. They have a lot of space there. And then I'll put some pictures up of my parents' garden. They've got land and they've been gardening. I actually learned how to garden working on this garden when I was growing up. This is where my love of gardening started. Actually, I did not love it as a child. I did not love gardening as a child. I enjoy it now, but that wasn't my favorite thing as a kid. But this is my parents' garden and some of the things they're growing this summer. So they were all kind enough to share some pictures of their gardens with me. We have a big gardening family. So it can save you money if you live in an area that's a little bit more temperate and you don't mind getting out and watering during the summer, or even if it's hot, being able to get out and do some extra watering and keep everything going. But if you compare how much it costs to get one little herb plant versus like how they sell it at the store, well, they have like a couple sprigs and it'll be like $5. It's kind of like easy math. Okay, number 13, and this is a fun one too, look into raising chickens. So if your neighborhood allows it and your community allows it, this can be a fun thing. So, 50 or 60 years ago, many Americans used to keep chickens in their backyards, and it was just kind of a thing. Everybody had kitchen gardens and everybody had chickens. And this was especially true during the 40s and 50s here in the US, and then even earlier, obviously, but especially during World War II with all the food rations, they really encouraged people to have as much of their own home, supply as they could of these items. So we can't raise chickens where we are because of our homeowners association. They would have an absolute fit. But my sister is out on property, and so they have chickens, and I'll put some pictures here of her cute chickens. And I was asking her if she was so kind to share these pictures with me, but I was asking her if they break even when they're raising chickens compared to if they were buying eggs in the store, or if they make money. And she was telling me something interesting. So she said basically they would pretty much break even raising their own chickens. And then they sell the extra eggs though, because their hens lay so many extra. And so they sell eggs to their friends and neighbors. And so she said that they actually make some money back doing that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So it's definitely an investment of time. And, when you go on vacation, you have to have somebody there. It's just like having a pet. You have to have somebody there to take care of the chickens too. But in fact, that actually reminds me of a funny story. When I was in college, I lived for 2 semesters. I was renting a room from a family out in the country that had chickens, and they went on vacation one summer, and I was supposed to be taking care of these chickens, and I did not know what I was doing at all. I'm sure they showed me, but I did not know what I was doing. And they had roosters, and roosters can be like really aggressive, and so I was out trying to collect eggs, and I felt this like sharp pain in my calf, and I turn around and there's this massive rooster like glaring at me. It was so funny. I totally forgot about this story. Like, this is awesome. But anyway, yes, raising chickens is an adventure, definitely. I'm sure there's tons of YouTube videos about keeping chickens, so if you're interested in that, you can look into that as well. Depends on if you have the time for it, the patience for it, want to learn that new skill. But what I've noticed with my sister's chickens is they're like really companionable, and they'll just hang out with her and her kids and her husband, and they're just really sociable little birds, and I think that's lovely. So I wish I had some, but we do not have. We've got too many rules here that wouldn't allow that, which is just too bad. But anyway, that's an idea for you to save money, especially because eggs are costing so much as we speak. Number 14 is to use leftovers creatively to minimize food waste and save money. So this can be as simple as, let's say one night you make grilled chicken, and then the next night you chop the chicken up and put it in a pasta salad, and you know, it's just easy ways to repurpose leftovers like that. Number 15 is to shop the bulk bins. So most stores, well, not most stores, but many grocery stores these days have aisles where they've got bulk bins where you can buy nuts in bulk, you can buy grains, you can buy seeds, you can buy dried fruit, and they'll have containers you can put them in, and you've probably seen this before, and then it's just sold by weight. And so that can be a cost-effective option versus just buying the little, you know, pre-done packages of it. Often the bulk bins are cheaper. Don't ask me why, but they often cost less, and so that's something to look into. Oh yes, and remember the golden rule of the bulk bin section. And I feel like a lot of grocery stores have changed the way they have their bulk bins set up post-pandemic. But the golden rule of bulk bin shopping is no nibbling, because I know especially pre-pandemic, they would often have these bins with kind of lids that you could lift up, and people, you'd routinely see this. It wasn't just the kids, it was like the grown-ups just grazing out of the bulk bin. So don't be that person. It's not elegant. Just, you know, remember just no nibbling. All right, so number 16 is steer clear of processed foods. So I don't need to tell you that there's a lot of stuff in processed foods that are just incredibly bad for you. All the added hydrogenated oils, all the sodium, all the sugar. Just steer clear of that stuff. It's honestly much healthier to do your own cooking, saves you a lot of money. And if you are going to buy prepared meals at the grocery store, whether it's off the hot bar or in the freezer section, just look at the ingredients list and see, you know, what's in there before you purchase that. But really, processed foods can even extend to, you know, snack food, all that stuff, and the price on it relative to how nutritious it is for you. And I'm not a nutritionist, but the price on it relative to nutrient value is just like, it's just pretty much like your body just can't get any nutrients out of that anyway. So just steer clear of that. Number 17 is have a big cooking day on the weekend and cook up healthy meals to freeze for later in the week. So this is something that my husband and I went to doing years ago. I don't even remember how long we've been doing this, but it has been really awesome because it lets us have healthy, nutritious food throughout the week with pretty minimal meal prep at dinner, because nobody wants to get to dinner time and have everybody hangry, and maybe you've got a plan for what you're making, but it's going to take an hour to finish preparing it. And so in the meantime, everybody's really hungry, and it can just turn dinner time into like a really stressful experience if your household is like mine. And so if you set aside some time to prepare meals on the weekend instead, then just make food that freezes up really well. So that could be soups, it could be stews. We do a lot of those, both of those at our house. You could grill up some chicken or steak and then put the cooked, you know, grilled meat in the freezer to pull out. Usually I'll like pre-slice it, and then you can just pull it out, defrost it a little bit, and then put it on top of, you know, either rice or quinoa or couscous, or on top of a salad. And I even like to make a big batch of hard-boiled eggs up on the weekend because that can be really nice just to grab for some easy protein. Because if your weeks are like mine, oh my goodness, like especially since launching my YouTube channel, my weeks have just been a blur. It's been a very fun blur, but a blur nonetheless. And so it can really be challenging to eat healthy during the week and give yourself, the head start on the weekend, and your week is going to be a much happier place when it comes to meal times. Number 18 is to avoid buying pre-cut fruits and vegetables. Purchase whole ones and cut them up yourself at home. So this can be good. I mean, if you're super busy, don't worry about this one and just eat whatever vegetables in whatever form you can get them, right? Like do whatever's most effective for you. But if you've got a little bit more time and your priority is to save money, then if you buy, say, whole celery and cut it up into celery sticks instead of buying the celery sticks, it's going to probably stay fresher longer as well. But if your only way, because you're so busy, to do vegetables is to buy the pre-cut ones and just grab and go, do it. whatever it takes to eat vegetables. Number 19 is check your pantry before you go shopping and use up any pantry staples before buying more to prevent duplicate purchases. So I don't know about you, but my pantry can really turn into like a cave back there. It's not even that deep, but stuff just like gets to the back and it's like prehistoric. It's like, I don't even know how long it's been there or what I bought it for. But it's good to occasionally do a good pantry clear out, go through and see what's in there. And then that way you're not buying, more mustard when you've got 10 mustards, but they're just all the way in the dark recesses of your pantry. Because that way you also don't have food expiring on you, which is, not going to save you money either. Number 20 is to make your own snacks and treats instead of buying them. I've found that this has been really effective, mostly because I'm so busy that I don't have time to make homemade snacks and treats, and so I don't eat them because I don't make them. So this was something I figured out a while ago when I stopped buying so many like snack bars and stuff like that, like energy bars. And I was like, oh, there's all these recipes online, so I could probably figure out how to make them myself. Well, I never found the time to make them, which probably didn't hurt me at all. So that is kind of a funny story. But if you even want to make really easy grab and go snacks, you can look at doing like peanut butter balls, like peanut butter energy balls are really good. Trail mixes, if you want to go shop the bulk section and then like put together your own trail mixes, just to be able to have some easy kind of on the go energy and nutrition to just keep you going. Those can be really good little hacks. Number 21 is to make your own salad dressings, sauces, and marinades instead of buying them. This is a good one too, because if you think about how much you usually have to pay for a bottle of salad dressing and how quickly you might run through it, or pay for a little thing of dip or whatever, versus just being able to mix it up yourself. And you can really play around with the flavors. There's so much variety you can do with sauces and dressings to really kind of add some zest to your meals. And also if you're growing your own herbs, then it's really easy to just grab some thyme or grab some oregano or some rosemary and then just like make a little vinaigrette, and it's like so easy and nice, but it just has that lovely fresh flavor. Or make homemade pesto with all the basil, and so that's really nice too. So that's a good way to save money versus having to pay for the pre-made version. Number 22 is to steer clear of the snack aisles. So they often say, when nutritionists are talking about how to stay healthier, they often say like, don't shop the middle aisles. Mostly just because, often you have to go down the middle aisles to get stuff you need. But the main reason for it is the manufacturer, or the grocery stores will usually put all the snack food and the junk food and the stuff that's like, really yummy tasting and yummy looking and attractively packaged straight down the middle of the store. So all your breakfast cereals, not that they're all bad, but breakfast cereals, crackers, chips, cookies, I could go on and on here. Potato chips, all the yummy munchies, especially if you're hungry and you go down those aisles, some of those are bound to come home with you because they're there and, they're salty or crunchy or sugary or any of the good stuff. So leave those at the store. Number 23 is buy dried beans and lentils in bulk and cook them at home instead of buying the canned variety. Again, if you're really busy, this might not be super practical, but if you want to save some money, it can be useful to just cook these up yourself at home. What I've gone to doing for my beans, because for some reason when I cooked beans up on the stove, I could never get them soft enough. So I actually have an Instapot. I'll link to something similar to the one I have. But I have an Instapot, and it's just a pressure cooker, and it gets the beans done in like 3 hours or less. And that way I'm not waiting all day for the beans to cook, and it does a really nice job on those. And then lentils are much easier. Lentils you can just cook up on the stovetop, and they're done in like super fast. So that's an easy thing to cook yourself at home versus, buying the cans of beans. And the other thing I've noticed is when I prepare the beans at home myself, they usually taste a little bit better, well, really a lot better than the canned version, just because they haven't been so processed. So that's something to think about there. Number 24 is to make your own bread, pasta, and other baked goods instead of buying pre-made ones. This one is one that's sort of, take this with a grain of salt, because I'm a baker, and I have found personally that making sourdough bread just completely escapes me, but I love sourdough bread. I just can never get it to like play ball when I try to make it. And so I have to buy sourdough bread. And there's some of those things that, sure, croissants are another example. I could probably figure out how to make them, but when I want a croissant, it's much easier to go to our bakery and buy it there. But if you have the knack to do some baking, very often what you're going to bake at home is going to be a lot healthier for you than what you're going to buy at the store. And also, like I said, you have to take that time and that investment of time to make the food. And then, maybe you run out of time and you're not eating as much sugary stuff, and no harm done with that, right? All right, and number 25 is to research bulk buying options from local farmers or ranchers in your area. This can be a really good one too. A lot of times they will have either meat shares at the ranchers that you can get shares of meat that you can buy in bulk and then freeze. They might have egg shares where you can get eggs every week from the farmers. They might have vegetable and produce baskets that you can get. So it really depends, but check and see what you have in your local farmers, and ranchers resources there that you can have to be able to maybe buy in bulk from them and be able to save some. I would say too, it's really important if you're going to buy fresh stuff in bulk, whether it's produce, meat, things like that, make sure that you've got a plan for how you're going to store it, because a lot of times what folks will do in that situation is they'll get a chest freezer and have a big kind of second freezer to be able to store all that extra meat in. And then also it's good to think about what happens if the power goes out, because if you're like me, we often have really severe storms come through during the summer in particular, sometimes during the winter, but more during the summer. We'll have really big storms come through and they'll knock the power out for quite some time. And so it's really good to think about, if you're planning to store food in bulk in your freezer, what's your backup plan if the power goes out? Do you have a generator? What's your thought process on that? Because sometimes if you don't have a backup power supply, it can be extraordinarily frustrating and expensive to lose everything you've got in your freezers. And so sometimes it's just better to let the grocery stores cope with that and just like leave it there. They've all got generator backup, and then you just get what you need on the fresh, meat and produce front as you need it. So completely up to you, but just something to think about. I speak from sad experience. We had a big winter storm last winter. We keep having huge winter storms every winter, but last winter was a really big one, and the power was out for several days, and I had stocked up on a lot of meat in the freezer, and we just like lost all of it, which was so annoying. So you might think that's the thing with saving money, is sometimes you're so proud of yourself and you figured out a way to save and something happens and it turns out that it actually cost you a bunch of money. So just take that with a grain of salt and think through your storage backup plans in that case. All right, so that's the whole list right there of 25 different ways to kind of help you brainstorm how to be able to save money on groceries and on food. And I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know in the comments as well. There's way more than this number of ways to save money. So please let me know in the comments of other ways that you save. I know I didn't mention wholesale grocers like Costco and Sam's Club. I know that's super popular as well. I don't use them personally, so I wasn't really able to comment on that because I don't do that from personal experience. All these other ones are things I've tried myself. But let me know in the comments what other ways you found helpful to save on food during this time when prices are so high. And if you want to get more money saving ideas and also more ideas about how to make more money, then you can check out my inflation playlist here on YouTube. All right, well, thank you so much for being here until the very end. And I wanted to share a really nice comment that I got from one of my lovely community here. Tammy says thanks on one of my videos recently. You are very welcome, Tammy. Thank you for being here. And I am just always so happy to have you all engaging with my channel here and liking, subscribing, and commenting. I read all of your comments. And thank you so much. And let me know too, I'd be really interested to know what's on your mind about money. What questions do you have? Do you have topics that you'd love to see me create videos on? I really want to make this channel about you and your needs and kind of what your areas are about personal finance or wealth mindset that you're struggling with right now. So please let me know in the comments if you have any particular topics that you would love to see me research and do more of these teaching and tips and tricks videos on. I'd be more than happy to do that. Thank you so much, and I will see you again soon in my next video.